Today I want to share some of the winter backpacking mistakes that I've made and have had to learn the hard way, so that hopefully you don't. That's coming up. What's up guys, I'm Joe with Backcountry Treks. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for the ongoing support. I really do appreciate it. Now before I get into sharing some of these mistakes, I want to give you a little context and set the scene for you. A good friend of mine, Nick, who does a lot of backpacking trips with me, and myself set out to the Grayson Highlands to do a winter backpacking storm trip. It was forecasted to snow about 3 to 6 inches, up to 8 inches in the upper elevation. Wind gusts were supposed to be anywhere from between 20 to 30 mile an hour. As it often goes, the forecast was way off. We ended up getting well over a foot of snow, and wind gusts were anywhere from between 50 to 60 mile an hour. Wind is ripping up here, resulting in knee to even waist deep drifts in certain parts of the trail. So it was rough going. And this brings me to mistake number one that we both made, and that was, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but we didn't bring gaiters. If you're asking yourself, why would you go on a winter storm backpacking trip and not bring gaiters? That's why it was a mistake. As you can imagine, as a result, the snow is getting down inside of our boots, melting from our body heat, soaking our socks, and getting the inside of our waterproof boots soaking wet. Now I was able to keep warm as long as I stayed moving and was hiking, but within 20 to 30 seconds of stopping to get some water, take a break, catch my breath, whatever, my feet felt like pins and needles, man, and it was absolutely brutal. Now fortunately, I did remember to bring dry socks. I brought my down booties, put my down booties on, threw the hand warmers in there. It took a few hours, but my feet did bounce back and felt normal again. So that was for sure a lesson learned the hard way, and moving forward, I will always bring my gaiters on any winter backpacking trip, even if they're only calling for a little bit of snow. Alright, mistake number two was that I did not bring a backup way to purify water in the event that my Sawyer squeeze failed, and it did. And so did Nick's. We did keep our filters on our inside pocket. I did not expose it to the elements at all, neither did he, except for when we pulled it out on day number 2 to fill back up with water. I'm gonna say somewhere around between 3 and 5 seconds of pulling that thing out and running water through it, the flow rate completely stopped. Like, it wasn't even dripping out, it was just done. Mine and his were just, I'm assuming they just froze over like that. So after that situation, moving forward, I leave the filter at home and I only bring either the tablets or the water drops to get clean water. Or plan ahead and bring enough fuel, knowing that you're going to be melting snow for your water source. And that brings me to mistake number 3, and that is I did not keep up with my hydration. I got extremely dehydrated. As a result of it being so cumbersome to boil water for clean water, I got lazy and I just didn't drink enough water. I think we hiked close to 11 miles on that second day, breaking trail the whole way in those tough conditions. When we got to the bottom of Mount Rogers, we ran into 2 locals. So we sat there and talked with them for a few minutes. And they made it very clear to us that there's no way we were going to make it to the campsite that we wanted to make it to on day number 2 before nightfall, when temperatures were going to plummet, winds were going to pick back up, conditions were just going to get really harsh. So they recommended that we turn around and head right back up the mountain that we had just came all the way down. Although that seemed like an extremely daunting task, we knew that if we went back up, we had Thomas Knob Shelter to retreat back to and get out of the elements and, treat our feet, get rehydrated, all the things that we'd really needed to take care of. So after a few minutes of discussing that with them, that's what we ended up doing. We turned around and went right back up that mountain, and about 2/3 of the way up, that dehydration caught up with me, and I felt extremely nauseous. I thought for sure I was going to start vomiting. Fortunately, we made it back to Thomas Knob Shelter. I climbed in my sleeping bag. I got my wet socks off, wet boots off, all that stuff. Took care of my feet. I was slowly able to sip water little by little. I laid in the fetal position in my underquilt for several hours until I was able to think about eating anything again. So I definitely learned the hard way how critical it is to keep up with staying hydrated, especially in any kind of harsh conditions. Now I know it sounds like we totally noobed out on this whole trip, and in some aspects we did, but there was a silver lining, and that was that we both learned a lot from these mistakes. I'm sharing with you, so like I said, hoping that you don't make some of these same mistakes. Pay close attention to detail when you're planning your trips, particularly in the winter. I don't regret this trip at all. We actually did have a really good time, minus several hours in the late afternoon and the evening on day number 2.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, buddy.
You hear that?
Nope.
Me neither.
Day number 3 was the sun came out. It was absolutely gorgeous, man. There was nobody else around. It felt like we had the entire wilderness area to ourselves. We didn't see anyone that whole trip except for those 2 guys that we saw on cross-country skis. And overall, it was just a really killer experience. Well, guys, that's it for today's video. If you found any value in this video, remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing. Thanks again for tuning in to Backcountry Treks, and I will see you on the next one.